avoid my glasses. I have two of them. I brought my reading one. I can't see most of it. Yeah, I actually want to go back to the thanks. To the old story about the elephant and the blind man. Perhaps there were women too there. I want to say that we may assume that UC survivors are one of the blind people out there, and I want to suggest this little change to the story, that perhaps the UC survivor is the elephant of the mental health system. Yeah? And different stakeholders, including the state machinery, the police, the NGOs, the doctors, the mental health professionals, are looking at the elephant with their own lenses. The elephant has not spoken yet. And so that's a good lesson, and I'm really glad that there are so many of us here trying to give voice to that elephant. And I hope that the space will be cleared some more so that everyone, all the blind people, get the full picture of what the elephant is. I don't know how many of you saw this movie Horton. It's a voice-hearing elephant. It's a really cute story, and I was suggesting it to Vandana that sometimes as a way of removing the stigma about voice-hearing people, you really must see this movie. It's a really nice Walt Disney movie. Okay, so coming to the thing about stories, there are already two. One is about Horton and the other one is about the elephant. And there is also a Bapu story. When I left for the 3-day meeting and I left my daughter behind, I'm a single parent, and my ex-husband asked me, do you really have to go for this? And I said, yeah, I have a family quarrel to settle. And these questions have come up so many times in the last 10 years. I've asked Nimesh so many questions, I've asked Vandana so many questions. All of us are old friends. I've asked Mr. Naidu so many questions, Ratna so many questions, and it goes on. And so it's really a family quarrel, and I completely agree that perhaps family is the most supportive system we have, not denying all the questions that you raise. I myself stayed away from my family many years before I started thinking about integration. So the Bapu story, while many of you have, I really deeply appreciate your effort to bring us all here together. I think this dialogue is very useful. I want to say that while each of you have taken the sort of responsibility of making those blueprint changes in your programs and coming back and sharing that with different experiments, the Coram experiment, the IBA's experiment, the LATU, the program, many of that has come up in public forum for discussion. Bapu has moved some more, and our questions and challenges that we want to place before the mental health sector have become slightly different. And of course it is fueled by, I heard the UNCRPD just once in 2 days, maybe I missed something, but UNCRPD was a huge force for us to make that change. We went back to all our programs. The fact is that many people in Bapu or associated with Bapu as program people have been through mental illness. They may not have identified themselves as a user or a survivor, but many of us, including people on board, people leading programs, have been through mental illness. And we realized that some of our psychotherapy programs and some of our advocacy programs, the values were not matching. And so we cut most of programs where we had 2 institutional programs. We had one in the Beggars Home, which we were doing for 5 years, long time. Then one in the family court, again, 5 years. And then we had to give up those programs. We literally, one was of course the fact that we didn't have the money. But the fact that we didn't have the money forced us to think, what exactly are we doing? And what our values are. Do we really want to be, one more way in which the government co-opts us into being custodians of people living with mental illness? Beggars Home is totally a custodial system, just like the mental hospital. We found that we could only do so much of voluntary work in there. And we were pushing people into institutions. 30% of our clients were going in for forced treatment. So then what were we saying? I mean, here I was talking about UC survivors and consent and choice, and there we had a program because of the rule of law, including the Mental Health Act and the Beggary Prevention Act. It was not allowing us to sort of apply our own values in our own programs. So we shut them. Early this year, we shut 2 of our institutional programs. And now we've decided that the way to change the system is to just go and file in the High Court, in the Supreme Court, then file range of RTIs, get more information, do more studies in these places of human rights violations, and get the stories of people who are living, in different sites as youth survivors, get their stories together. So that's what we are doing right now. So our vision has changed, and one of the learnings in this process has been that we really need to build programs which will clear space for people who are youth survivors to express themselves in whatever way they want, whether it be through storytelling. So we have a Sanchit program where we met Susie, and I invite her to share her story a little bit in order to counter, Mr. Naidu asked this morning, where are the people? We have heard about how many people have been helped by all these interventions, but what are their stories? Is there any of them here present to share their stories? And I think that's a vital question. We hear about 17,000, 3 lakhs, 40,000, 29,000, all of that. But what is the content of those lives? We don't know. And knowing that we are working within the regime of these different laws, particularly the Beggary Prevention Act, the Mental Health Act, and the CRPC, other than the range of civil acts, we really need to know those stories. So Sanchit is one program which we continue, and we invite everyone to contribute to that. So that is something that we are carrying on, and even in that, another change in vision that we clearly made was that, and this is a learning from our own work, in our own programs, we found that when it comes to so-called common mental disorders, people were able to deliver psychosocial services. When it came to severe mental disorders, they brought in the entire stereotype of, no insight, can't make decisions, send off to mental hospital or custodial institutions, get treated there, bring them back.
Get ECT.
Get ECT, yes. So it was this entire, so within our own program, and this is like common experience. I mean, we are trained to think lack of incapacity in the context of SMD. And all the civil deaths that we talked about is mainly for this group of people. So in our vision, we included this thing that we will strive to make the system inclusive of people who are supposed to be severely disturbed. Not for a moment denying the disability associated with the disturbance. Bapu works with quite a lot of voice-hearing people, but not with this thing that lack insight, and therefore cannot make decisions, not with this paradigm. So that has been built into our vision right now, that we will not encourage exclusion of people on grounds of severe disturbance. So that has been a major change for us. So with this, I sort of stop. I really appeal. I know that, please, I know that we are not against psychiatry. We have lots of friends within psychiatry. We are not against medication. The critical question is about choice and about the capacity of different people to listen to that elephant. And so I request Susie to share her story.